The office phone rang at 11:47 p.m. Slicing through the silence like a blade, Clara Evans flinched. Her tired eyes snapping from the glowing computer screen to the ancient landline nobody used anymore. The fluorescent lights hummed above her empty cubicle. Outside the glass windows, the city sprawled below, restless and electric. Her hand trembled as she reached for the receiver. "Hello, this is Clara Evans." Silence stretched. Then a voice, low and commanding, spoke words that made her blood freeze. "Where's the file?" Clara blinked at her cluttered desk. "I'm sorry, you must have the wrong number. Don't play games with me." The voice cut through her protest like steel. "Where is the file?" Her throat tightened. "I think you have the wrong person." "I don't know what you're talking about." The line went quiet. When he spoke again, his tone carried certainty that made her skin prickle. Clara Evans. She hadn't told him her full name. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. "Who is this?" His reply came soft, almost amused. "You'll know soon enough." A pause, heavy with promise. "From now on, you're mine." The line went dead. Clara sat frozen, the receiver pressed against her ear, her heart threatening to break through her chest. Mine who spoke to strangers like that? How did he know her name with such absolute certainty? She slammed the phone down and grabbed her bag, her movements jerky with panic. The corridor stretched ahead, empty and echoing. By the time she reached the lobby, her breath came in shallow gasps. On the subway home, she replayed the call over and over. That voice, measured and deliberate, belonging to someone used to control. Someone who believed he had the right to claim whatever he wanted. In her cramped apartment, Clara made tea with shaking hands. Bills lay piled on the counter, constant reminders of why she sacrificed her evenings. She dreamed of more than this invisible life. But reality kept her chained 2 long hours and little recognition. She forced herself into bed. But every creak of the building felt like footsteps. Every shadow across her wall felt like a presence. Deep down, she knew this wasn't over. The way he'd said her name, the weight in his final words, carved themselves into her bones. Something had shifted tonight. Something irreversible. What Clara didn't know was that the man behind the voice was already watching, already setting pieces into place. She only knew she felt marked, claimed by a stranger who spoke with the certainty of a man who always got what he wanted. The next morning arrived too soon. Clara moved through her routine on autopilot, forcing herself to believe it had been a wrong number. A scammer with public records. The illusion shattered the moment she walked into her office. Crowds surrounded the reception desk, voices buzzing. Clara slowed, her stomach dropping as she saw it. A towering arrangement of red roses and white orchids. Elegant and impossible to ignore. The receptionist beamed at her. "Clara, these are for you." Every eye in the office turned toward her. "For me." That has to be a mistake. The receptionist held out a sleek envelope. Clara's hands shook as she opened it. Heavy cardstock. 2 letters embossed in confident script. DB, she read the note inside, and the floor seemed to tilt beneath her feet. "Wrong numbers are rarely accidents. Looking forward to meeting you properly, Damian Blackwell." The name hit her like a physical blow. Damian Blackwell. The billionaire CEO whose face dominated business headlines. The man both envied and reviled. Wrapped in scandal and power, and he was claiming her. Snickers rippled through the crowd. "Guess our quiet assistant has a secret billionaire boyfriend." Clara clutched the card, heat flooding her cheeks. She hurried to her cubicle and shoved the flowers under her desk. But the perfume clung to the air like a ghost she couldn't escape. Curiosity gnawed at her. She typed his name into the search bar. Hundreds of results flooded the screen. Photographs of him at galas, stepping from limousines, his dark hair artfully disheveled, his suits fitting like armor. But it was his eyes that trapped her, dark and unwavering. Carrying the intensity of a man who commanded empires, articles detailed accusations of stock manipulation. Insider trading, whispers of secret settlements. Yet there were also stories of philanthropy, donations to children's hospitals, scholarships in his parents' names. He was a contradiction. Admired and feared in equal measure. Clara closed the browser quickly. afraid someone would catch her looking. Could it really have been him on the phone? But why would Damian Blackwell call an ordinary assistant in the middle of the night? By evening, the office had become unbearable. Whispers followed her everywhere. Even her manager raised an eyebrow. If you're going to have powerful friends, try not to let it distract the rest of the team. Clara buried herself in work, but the words on her screen blurred. Looking forward to meeting you properly. What did he mean? When she finally left, the flowers still dominated the reception desk like a neon sign. Clara pushed through the revolving doors into the cold night air, trying to convince herself this would end here. Then she saw it. Across the street, a sleek black car idled against the curb, windows tinted too dark to see inside. Her pulse spiked. She forced herself toward the subway entrance, but as she neared the stairs, the limousine slid into her path. The door opened with mechanical smoothness. A tall man in a dark suit stepped out, his expression professional yet unyielding. "Miss Evans?" he said, his voice leaving no room for refusal. "Mr. Blackwell requests your time." Clara's throat went dry. "I think you have the wrong person." The man's eyes flicked toward her bag, then back to her face. "No mistake, please." It was polite, but steel lay beneath the word. People on the sidewalk slowed to watch, curiosity sparking in their eyes. Clara hated the attention. Her choices narrowed too: to climb into the limousine or create a scene she wasn't prepared to explain. With a shaky breath, she slid inside. The interior was dimly lit, leather and expensive cologne filling the space. The door closed, sealing her into silence. Opposite her sat Damian Blackwell. He was even more striking in person. His hair slightly tousled by choice, his tailored suit an effortless display of wealth. But it was his eyes that trapped her, dark and unwavering, carrying the weight of a man accustomed to command. "You," Clara whispered, recognizing the voice immediately. "You called me." "What?" Damian tilted his head, a faint smile ghosting his lips. "And you answered." Clara bristled, gripping her bag tightly. "It was a mistake." His gaze sharpened. "Do you believe in mistakes, Clara?" "I don't. Numbers, choices, people, they intersect for reasons we may not understand yet." She swallowed hard. "Why me?" "I don't know anything about your files or whatever you were looking for." He studied her closely as though cataloging every twitch of her expression. "There's a man," he said slowly. "An insider who is supposed to deliver something crucial. Sensitive data. Proof of fraud that could bring down half of Wall Street." He paused. "He vanished. His number differs from yours by only 1 digit. Clara shook her head fiercely. "I swear I have nothing to do with any of this." "I know." His voice softened, but something darker lurked beneath. "I had you investigated within an hour of our call. Clara Evans, 26 assistant at Weston & Co. Student loans. Studio apartment in Brooklyn. No criminal record. No connections to corporate espionage." Her stomach turned. "You investigated me?" "I investigate everyone who becomes relevant to me." He leaned forward, and the space between them felt charged. "But here's what interests me. You answered that phone at midnight. Alone, in an empty office, working late for people who don't notice you exist." The accuracy of his words stung. Clara looked away. "You're invisible to them," Damian continued, his voice dropping lower. "But not to me." Heat flushed through her body, equal parts anger and something she didn't want to name. "So what do you want from me?" she demanded. "You know I'm not involved in whatever conspiracy you're chasing." Damian's smile widened, but it didn't reach his eyes. "What I want is simple. Someone is trying to destroy me, Clara. They've already cost me millions. Planted evidence. Turned my own board members against me. And the one man who could prove my innocence disappeared the same night I called you by mistake. That's not my problem. It became your problem the moment you answered." His tone hardened. "Whoever is targeting me will eventually trace that call. They'll wonder why I contacted you. They'll assume you're important to me." Clara's blood turned to ice. "But I'm not. They don't know that." He leaned back, watching her carefully. "Which means you're in danger whether you like it or not." The limousine glided through the city streets, and Clara felt the world tilting beneath her. "This is insane," she whispered. You can't just decide I'm part of your life because of a wrong number. I didn't decide. His voice was quiet, almost intimate. Fate did. I'm simply choosing not to ignore it. Clara's hands trembled. So what? You're going to what? Protect me? Keep me close so your enemies don't hurt me? Exactly. That's kidnapping. That's survival. Damian's eyes burned into hers. You have two choices, Clara. Go home, pretend this never happened, and hope whoever is hunting me doesn't notice you. Or stay under my protection until this is over. Her heart hammered. And if I refuse, then I'll have someone watch you from a distance. But you'll be alone, exposed. He paused. Is that really what you want? Clara wanted to scream at him, to tell him he had no right to turn her life upside down. But the cold logic of his words wrapped around her like chains. If someone dangerous was looking for him, they traced that call to her. ... How long? She asked, hating the defeat in her voice. Till I find the man who betrayed me. Until I can prove I'm not the criminal they're painting me to be. His gaze softened, just slightly. I won't hurt you, Clara. That's a promise. She wanted to believe him. But men like Damian Blackwell didn't make promises. They made calculated moves. Where would I stay? My penthouse. Top floor security. Private staff? You'll have your own suite. Clara laughed bitterly. And everyone will think I'm your mistress. Let them think what they want. His voice turned dangerous. The only opinion that matters is yours. The limousine pulled to a stop outside a towering glass building, all sharp angles and glowing windows. Clara stared up at it, feeling like she was standing at the edge of a cliff. I need one night, she said quietly. To think about this. To pack. Damian studied her for a long moment, then nodded. One night. My driver will pick you up tomorrow at 8 a.m. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a sleek black phone. Take this. It's secure. My number is the only one programmed into it. Clara accepted the phone, her fingers brushing his. The contact sent electricity racing up her arm. If anything happens tonight, Damian said, his voice low and urgent, anything that feels wrong, you call me. Understood? She nodded, unable to trust her voice. The door opened, and she stepped out into the cold night air. The limousine pulled away, leaving her standing alone on the sidewalk, clutching a phone that connected her. To a man who'd claimed her with nothing but a voice and a promise, Clara walked to the subway in a daze, her mind spinning. This couldn't be real. Billionaires didn't drag ordinary women into their dangerous worlds, but when she reached her apartment and locked the door behind her, she pulled out the black phone. One contact, one named Damian. She set it on her nightstand and tried to sleep, but every sound made her jump. Every shadow felt like a threat at 2:47 a.m. Her regular phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We know you answered his call. Tell us what he said and we'll leave you alone. Refuse and you'll regret it. Clara's blood turned to ice. With shaking hands, she grabbed the black phone and dialed the only number in it. Damian answered on the first ring, his voice alert despite the hour. Clara, what's wrong? They found me, she whispered, her voice breaking. They know. Damian's penthouse was a fortress of glass and steel, suspended above the city like a crown. Clara stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching dawn break over Manhattan, painting the skyline in shades of gold and blood. She'd barely slept. After that text, Damian's security team had arrived within 15 minutes, sweeping her from her apartment with military efficiency. Now she wore borrowed clothes, drank coffee from cups worth more than her monthly rent, and tried to process how her life had shattered in 48 hours. Behind her, Damian moved through the space with controlled grace, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in clipped tones to lawyers and investigators. He'd changed into a black shirt and dark slacks, his hair still damp from the shower. Even exhausted, he radiated power. When he finally ended the call, silence stretched between them. They traced the call through cell tower data, Damian said, setting his phone down. Whoever is targeting me has resources. Government level. Clara turned to face him. Who would want to destroy you that badly? Take your pick. His smile was bitter. I've made enemies in every sector. Politicians I refused to fund. Competitors I outmaneuvered. Former partners who felt cheated. He moved closer, and Clara's breath caught. But this is different. This is personal. How can you tell? Because they're not just attacking my business, they're attacking me. His eyes darkened. The files thereafter contain evidence of crimes I didn't commit. Someone planted them in my company's servers, then ensured they'd be discovered during the federal investigation. Clara's mind raced. So you're being framed. Systematically. Methodically. He stopped inches from her, and she could feel the heat radiating from his body. And you're caught in the crossfire because fate decided to tangle our threads together.
Oh.
She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt something else. A dangerous pull toward this man who'd claimed her with such certainty. I need to know something, Clara said, forcing herself to meet his gaze. That night on the phone, when you said I was yours, did you mean it? Or was it just a power play? Damian's jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek with surprising gentleness. I meant every word. His voice dropped to a near whisper. From the moment you answered, something shifted. I don't believe in accidents, Clara. I believe in recognition. Her heart hammered. Recognition of what? Of the person who could destroy you or save you. Sometimes they're the same. His thumb traced her lower lip, and heat flooded through her. You're either my greatest weakness or my only anchor. I haven't decided which yet. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. Damian glanced at it and his entire body went rigid.
What is it?
He showed her the screen. A video file from an unknown sender. With a tight expression, he hit play. The footage showed a warehouse, dimly lit and grimy. In the center, tied to a chair, was a man in his 50s, bloodied and bruised. The camera zoomed in on his face, and Damian's breath hissed through his teeth. Marcus Reeves, the insider who was supposed to deliver the files. A distorted voice spoke from off-camera. Mr. Blackwell, we have your rat. He was very chatty before we broke his fingers. Would you like to know what he told us about your little assistant? Clara's blood turned to ice. The voice continued, amused and cruel. Seems your wrong number wasn't so wrong after all. Marcus here used Clara Evans' office line to make calls. Thought it would throw us off his trail. Pause. It didn't. But it did lead us to something interesting. A woman you're suddenly very interested in protecting. The video cut to black. Then text appeared, trade, the girl for the evidence. Midnight. Pier 47, come alone. Or we kill them both. Clara stumbled backward. They think I know something. They think I'm working with you. Damian's expression was stone. This is a trap. They want both the evidence and leverage over me. So what do? He turned to her, and something in his eyes made her chest tighten. We give them what they want. What? I'll meet them. Make the trade. His voice was too calm, too controlled. My security team will position around the pier. When they bring Marcus and realize you're not there, they'll either negotiate or attack. Either way, we end this tonight. Clara grabbed his arm. They'll kill you if you go alone. They'll kill you if I don't. He covered her hand with his, and the gesture felt achingly intimate. I've spent my entire life calculating risks, Clara. This is one I'm willing to take. Why? The word came out broken. Why risk everything for someone you barely know? Damian stepped closer, his forehead nearly touching hers. Because in a world full of people who want something from me, you're the only one who didn't ask for any of this. His voice roughened. Because when I heard your voice that night, confused and genuine, I remembered what it felt like to talk to someone real. Tears burned Clara's eyes. Damian, I can't let you do this. You don't have a choice. He kissed her forehead, and the tenderness of it shattered something inside her. Stay here. My head of security will keep you safe. If anything goes wrong, there's a panic room behind the bookshelf. Code is your birthday. Clara's breath caught. How do you know my birthday? A ghost of a smile. I told you. I investigate everyone who becomes relevant to me. He started to pull away, but Clara tightened her grip on his arm. If you die tonight, she whispered, I'll never forgive you. Damian's eyes blazed. Then I'll make sure to survive. He kissed her then, hard and desperate, a kiss that tasted like goodbye and promises neither of them could keep. When he pulled away, Clara felt the loss like a physical wound. Stay alive, she said, always. He headed for the door. His security team falling into formation around him, Clara stood alone in the penthouse. Watching the city lights blur through her tears, hours crawled by. She paced the length of the windows, checked her phone obsessively, and tried not to imagine all the ways this could end in blood. At 11:52 p.m., her phone rang. Not the secure one Damian gave her, but her regular cell. Unknown number. With trembling hands, she answered, Clara Evans. The voice was smooth, familiar. Her manager, Monica. I'm sorry it had to be this way. Clara's world tilted. What? Did you really think a man like Damian Blackwell would protect you out of the goodness of his heart? Monica's laugh was cold. He needed bait, sweetheart. Someone expendable. Someone whose disappearance wouldn't make waves? You're lying. Am I? Check your secure phone. The one he gave you. A pause. It's been transmitting your location to us since the moment he handed it to you. We've been listening to every word. Claire's hands shook as she grabbed the black phone. She pulled up the settings, diving deeper than she'd thought to look before. There it was. Hidden software. A tracking app. An open microphone. Damian had been broadcasting her location the entire time. He used you, Monica said, her voice almost pitying. Let us write to you so he could draw us out. You were never his anchor, Clara. You were his trap. The phone slipped from Clara's fingers, clattering against the marble floor. The penthouse is surrounded, Monica continued. Damian won't save you. He's already at the pier, making deals that don't include your survival. But I'm offering you a choice. Tell us where he keeps his backup files, and we'll let you walk away. Refuse, and you'll disappear tonight. Another statistic in a city that eats people like you alive. Clara sank to her knees, betrayal flooding through her like poison. She'd been a pawn. A distraction. Nothing more. I'll give you 10 seconds to decide, Monica said. Then my team comes through that door. Through her tears, Clara stared at the phone Damian had given her. The phone that had betrayed her location with every step, and she made her choice. Clara's voice came out steady, colder than she'd ever heard it. The files are in his private office, behind the painting of his parents. Biometric safe. Smart girl. Monica's satisfaction dripped through the phone. Stay right there. This will all be over soon. The line went dead. Clara stood, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. Then she moved. She had maybe 3 minutes before they breached the penthouse. 3 minutes to decide if she was going to let betrayal break her or forge her into something harder. The panic room, Damian mentioned, was real. Clara found it behind the bookshelf, punched in her birthday with shaking fingers. The door slid open to reveal a small, reinforced space with monitors, showing every angle of the penthouse, and a weapons locker. Clara had never held a gun in her life, but as she stared at the sleek black pistol mounted inside, she thought about the voice on the phone that night. The certainty in Damian's words, the way he'd looked at her like she mattered. Used you, Monica had said. Bait. Expendable. But something didn't fit. If Damian only wanted to track his enemies, he could have planted a phone on anyone. Why the flowers? Why the kiss that tasted like he was memorizing her? Why tell her the panic room code was her birthday? Clara grabbed the gun, checked the magazine like she'd seen in movies, and made a choice that terrified her. She wasn't running. Not anymore. The front door exploded inward with a crash of splintering wood. 3 figures in black tactical gear swept into the penthouse, weapons raised. Clara watched them on the monitors, her heart a drum in her chest. She's not here, one of them said into a radio. Penthouse is clear. Monica's voice crackled back. Find her. She's in there somewhere. They moved through the space with professional efficiency. Clara waited, barely breathing as they approached the bookshelf. Then her phone buzzed. The secure phone, lying on the floor where she'd dropped it. A text from Damian. "Forgive me." Clara's breath caught. Before she could process it, another message appeared. "The phone is a tracker. I know. I needed them to think I was using you. But Clara, listen carefully. The real files are in the panic room. Titanium case under the floor panel. You're the only one who can access it. Code. Recognition. Get them out. Survive. I'll find you." Her hands trembled as she read it again. He'd known. He'd known they were listening, known they'd tell her about the tracker. This was never about bait. It was about trust. Another text. "I'm sorry I couldn't tell you. Trust is the only currency they can't counterfeit. I needed to know if you'd believe in me even when everything said you shouldn't." The kiss was real. Everything else was theater. Footsteps approached the bookshelf. Clara shoved the phone in her pocket and moved to the floor panel. Her fingers found the seam, pried it open. Inside was a titanium case, exactly as he'd described. She punched in the code. RECOGAEON. The case unlocked with a soft click. Inside were hard drives, documents, and a handwritten note in Damian's sharp script. "These prove everything. Guard them with your life. I'm guarding mine with thoughts of you." The bookshelf began to move. They'd found the entrance. Clara grabbed the case, checked the gun's safety, and felt something shift inside her. She wasn't Clara Evans' invisible assistant anymore. She was someone who'd been claimed by a man who played chess with people's lives, and she was about to prove she could play too. The panic room door slid open. The first tactical operative stepped through. Weapon-raised Clara shot out the camera in the corner. In the sudden darkness and confusion, she moved. She wasn't trying to kill anyone. Just survive. Just get past them with the files that could save. Damian's life, the first operative went down with a strike to the knee with the gun's grip. The second turned, but Clara was already rolling, using the furniture as cover. Adrenaline screamed through her veins. She's armed. Someone shouted. Clara fired twice into the ceiling, creating chaos, then sprinted for the service elevator Damian had shown her that morning. The one that bypassed security and led directly to the parking garage. Bullets shattered glass behind her. She slammed her hand on the elevator button. The titanium case clutched against her chest. The doors opened. She dove inside. As they closed, she caught a glimpse of Monica stepping into the penthouse. Her face twisted with rage. The elevator descended, and Clara leaned against the wall, gasping. Her entire body shook, but the case was secure. She'd made it. When the doors opened in the garage, a figure stepped from the shadows. Clara raised the gun instinctively, then froze. Damian stood there, blood on his shirt, bruises darkening his jaw, but alive. So impossibly alive. "You came," he said, his voice raw with something that sounded like wonder. Clara's hand shook so badly she nearly dropped the gun. "You used me. I gave you a choice." Stepped closer, ignoring the weapon pointed at his chest. "Every moment, every word, I gave you the choice to walk away. To believe the worst of me. To save yourself." His eyes burned into hers. "You chose to trust me anyway." "The tracker," she whispered. "They were always listening. I needed them to think they had the upper hand. Needed them to believe I was desperate enough to sacrifice you." He reached out slowly, gently taking the gun from her trembling fingers. "But I would never, Clara. Not you," Monica said. ... Monica is the one who's been selling me out. She's been working with my competitors for months, funneling information, planting evidence. His jaw clenched. "She thought using your office line would implicate you, make you look like an accomplice. When I called that number by mistake, it derailed her entire plan." Clara's knees buckled. Damian caught her, pulling her against his chest. She could feel his heart hammering as hard as hers. "You could have told me," she said into his shirt. "I couldn't risk it. If you'd known, your reactions wouldn't have been genuine. They would have smelled the deception." His arms tightened around her. "I needed you to feel betrayed. To sound betrayed. So when you accessed the real files, they wouldn't see it coming. That's insane." That's survival in my world. He pulled back just enough to look at her, and his expression cracked open, revealing something raw and honest. But Clara, the rest of it. The kiss, the confession, telling you that you could destroy me or save me. His voice dropped to a whisper. That was real. All of it. She searched his eyes, looking for the lie. But all she found was a man who'd bet everything on her choosing him, even when logic screamed not to. You're a bastard, she whispered. I know. Calculating, impossible bastard. Yes, and I should walk away right now. His smile was sad and beautiful. You should. Clara grabbed his collar and pulled him down, kissing him with all the fury and fear and desperate relief flooding through her. He responded instantly, one hand tangling in her hair, the other gripping her waist like she might disappear. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Clara held up the titanium case. These better be worth it. They are.
Act.
His expression hardened. With those files, I can prove Monica and her partners have been running an insider trading scheme worth billions. The fraud they tried to pin on me. It was theirs all along. So what now? Now, Damian's smile turned dangerous. Now we destroy them the same way they tried to destroy me. With the truth, sirens wailed in the distance. Damian's security team emerged from the shadows, surrounding them with professional efficiency. The authorities? Clara asked. Already contacted? By the time Monica realizes what's happened, the FBI will be raiding her office. He cupped her face, his touch achingly gentle despite the violence of the night. You did this, Clara. You saved me. No. She placed her hand over his. We saved each other. The weight of the night settled over them, exhaustion and adrenaline leaving them both trembling. But as Damian led her to a waiting car, Clara realized something had fundamentally changed. She'd walked into his world invisible and overlooked. She was walking out of this night forged in fire, marked by a man who'd claimed her not with chains but with impossible trust. Where are we going? She asked as the car pulled away from the chaos. Damian's thumb traced circles on her hand. Somewhere safe. Somewhere far from here. At least until this is over. And then. He looked at her, and for the first time, she saw vulnerability in his eyes. Then you decide if you want to stay in my world or return to yours. I won't trap you, Clara. Not after tonight. She thought about her cramped apartment, her invisible life, the years she'd spent being overlooked. Then she thought about the way Damian looked at her, like she was the only solid thing in his universe. What if I told you I'm not sure I have a world to go back to anymore? His smile was slow and devastating. Then I'd say, welcome home. 3 months later, Clara stood at the same floor-to-ceiling windows where this had all begun. Watching snow fall over Manhattan, the city looked softer now, gentler beneath its white blanket. Behind her, penthouse buzzed with the quiet efficiency of Damian's world. He was on the phone in his office, his voice carrying that edge of command she'd come to recognize as his armor. Monica and her co-conspirators had been arrested within hours of that night. The files Clara had protected became the keystone of the federal case. Blackwell Enterprises had been cleared of all charges, and Damian's reputation, while still shadowed by old rumors, had survived the storm. But the real transformation wasn't in the headlines. It was in the small moments. The way Damian had taught her to read financial statements over breakfast, his fingers brushing hers as he pointed to critical numbers. The way he'd encouraged her to apply for a position in his acquisitions department and refused to interfere with the hiring process because he wanted her to earn it on her own merit. She'd gotten the job. Not as his assistant or his accessory, but as a junior analyst with real responsibilities and a salary. That made her old life feel like a fever dream. But there were harder moments, too. Aints when Damian woke gasping from nightmares about losing her. Days when the media photographed them together, and the comments sections, filled with speculation about whether she was using him or he was using her. And there was the question neither of them had fully answered. What were they to each other? Clara heard his office door open. She turned to find Damian watching her, his tie loosened, exhaustion and something softer in his eyes. The board meeting ran long, he said, moving toward her. They want to expand into Southeast Asia. I told them I needed to consult with someone first. Clara raised an eyebrow. Your financial advisors? You? He stopped in front of her, and his smile carried a vulnerability that still surprised her. You see things they don't. Patterns in data. Risks they're too confident to notice. She'd learned that about herself over these months. The skills that made her a good assistant, attention to detail, the ability to anticipate needs, had translated into sharp analytical instincts. Damian had recognized it before she had. You don't need my permission to expand your empire, Clara said softly. No, he reached up, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. But I want your partnership. The word hung between them, heavy with meaning. Partnership, Clara repeated. Is that what this is? Damian's expression grew serious. I don't know what to call it. Every word feels insufficient. He took her hands, and she felt the slight tremor in his fingers. You could have left 100 times. After the betrayal, after you learned how I'd manipulated the situation, after the media started tearing us apart, but I didn't. Why? The question was raw, almost desperate. I need to understand why you stayed when any sane person would have run. Clara looked at this man who'd claimed her with a voice in the dark. This complicated, brilliant, damaged man who'd trusted her with his destruction or his salvation. Because that night on the phone, she said slowly, you saw me when I was invisible to everyone else. Because you gave me a choice when you could have forced my hand. Because underneath all the calculation and strategy, I saw someone who was as lonely as I was. Damian's breath caught. And because, Clara continued, her voice strengthening, when you had to choose between your empire and my safety, you were ready to burn it all down. That's not manipulation, Damian. That's sacrifice. He pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. I don't deserve you. Probably not. She smiled against his lips. But you're stuck with me anyway. When he kissed her, it was different from that desperate kiss in the garage. This one was slow, certain, a promise of something neither of them had planned, but both had chosen. They broke apart at the sound of Clara's phone ringing. She glanced at the screen and froze. Unknown number. Damian tensed. Don't answer it. Something in Clara's gut told her this was different. She answered, putting it on speaker. Miss Evans. The voice was female, crisp, professional. My name is Catherine Price. I represent a consortium of investors who've been watching your career with interest. Clara and Damian exchanged glances. I'm not looking for new opportunities, Clara said carefully. This isn't a job offer. It's a proposal. A pause. We know what you did, how you protected those files, how you outmaneuvered some very dangerous people. We're impressed, Miss Evans, and we'd like to discuss funding a venture capital firm with you at the helm. Clara's heart stopped. I'm sorry, what? You have instincts most analysts spend decades developing? You have something else? The ability to see value in places others overlook? Catherine's tone warmed. The invisible places. The wrong numbers that turn out to be right? Clara looked at Damian. His expression was unreadable. I need time to think about this, Clara said. Of course we'll be in touch. The line went dead. Silence stretched between them. Clara waited for Damian to tell her it was a trap, to analyze the risks, to calculate the angles. Instead, he smiled, a real smile that cracked open his careful control. Take it, he said. What? Take the offer. Build something of your own. His eyes blazed with pride and something that looked like love. I claimed you that night, Clara. But you were never mine to own. You were always meant to be your own. Tears burned her eyes. And us. Damian pulled her close, his voice rough with emotion. We're the best wrong number that ever happened. We're partners, equals, two people, who found each other in the dark and chose to stay when the light exposed all our flaws. Clara kissed him then, pouring 3 months of fear and hope and impossible trust into it. When they broke apart, she whispered against his lips, I love you. I don't know when it happened. Maybe that first night when you said I was yours. Maybe in the panic room when I chose to believe in you. But I do. Damian's hands cradled her face, and his eyes shimmered with unshed tears. I loved you the moment you answered that call and didn't hang up. Even confused, even scared, you stayed on the line. You always stayed. Outside, snow continued to fall, blanketing the city in silence. Inside, two people who'd been invisible, overlooked, and alone had found each other through chaos and created something neither had believed possible. Clara thought about the version of herself who'd answered that phone 3 months ago. The woman who'd felt trapped by an ordinary life, who'd believed she would always be invisible. She wasn't that person anymore. She'd been claimed by a billionaire's voice in the dark. But more importantly, she'd claimed herself, and that made all the difference. 6 months later, Clara stood in front of a gleaming office building with her name on the directory. Evans Capital, the venture capital firm Catherine Price had helped her launch, was already making waves. Investing in overlooked founders and companies others dismissed, Damian had been her first investor. Not because he had to be, but because he believed in her. They still lived in the penthouse, still fought over breakfast about market trends and risk assessment, still woke tangled together, proving with every breath that wrong numbers could create the rightest connections. As Clara walked into her office, her phone buzzed. A text from Damian. Proud of you. Always. Tonight. Hey, let me take you to dinner and remind you that you're mine. She smiled, typing back. Only if you remember that you're mine too. His response was immediate, from the moment you answered. Forever. Clara set her phone down and looked out at the city that had once made her feel invisible. Now it sprawled before her like a kingdom she'd earned through fire and choice. She'd answered the wrong call, and it had led her to exactly the right life. The end.